And when we call the parents, when we ask questions of students who have been looking at things on the internet, the parents are so happy that we've made them aware that their students have been looking up some sites. And they didn't know that their students were going through such depression, such terrible things that they've been thinking about. And the way to get in front of that, again, is those relationships and having the conversation. The conversations matter.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday shine online. Now, let's get back to the interview.
I'm Ray Sanchez. I'm the proud superintendent of the public schools of the Terrytowns. There are about 5 schools in total. We're about 30 miles north of New York City along the Hudson River in Westchester County. We serve about 2,600 students of diverse backgrounds.
My name is Rebecca Cooksey. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Innovation and Technology Services in Lancaster School District. We're located in the north section of Los Angeles County. We have approximately 15,000 students, all elementary, over 21 schools.
Hello, I'm Alina Zachery-Ross, Superintendent of Schools for the Ypsilanti Community School District. We have about 3,800 students. We're located in Ypsilanti, Michigan, right outside of Detroit.
Now, how have you been successful in increasing parent engagement to help keep students safe on social media?
So I just what I know is that the pandemic and what I've experienced, the pandemic has accelerated some of the change process. We now have virtual learning sessions for families that otherwise, it was a barrier to come into a school to engage them and provide learning opportunities. We've provided families videos where, we do asynchronous type learning with our families to help them understand and be educated. Because, and I would say, not so distant past, we used to send out, emails with words, on written paper. This has now been able to, we've been providing more dynamic communication opportunities. Our staff have offered in-school opportunities and trainings for our families so that they can learn what our students are learning so that they can teach and reinforce at home as well. So there's virtual opportunities, in person, and just ongoing discussions, sometimes even just nudges for our families, not long snippets, but just these little nudges we will send out to folks on a weekly basis around things to consider so that it's just at the forefront and in the front of mind as they're working with their children.
I'll be honest, we need to do more work on getting our parents engaged to understand some of the dangers and some of the benefits of social media. We need to do a better job of that because I don't think our community fully understands some of the dangers that can happen to students by using too much social media or engaging in the wrong type of social media. We need to do a much better job connecting with our parents and educating them.
Right now, we've been using technology to help our parents by educating them on what's out there. A lot of our parents haven't been using technology like their students have. So we've been teaching them about what sites there are, what access there is by introducing them, by showing them the sites, by bringing them in and engaging them in that technology that they might not be aware of.
The next question I have for you is, are there any stories that might come to mind about any social media incidents you've been able to get in front of or avoid by being proactive?
Yes and no. As much as I try to say that we're trying to be proactive, things happen, right? So I'm being semi-repetitive in terms of education and educating our students. And that's our effort to be proactive. Creating policies with a board, trying to be proactive around various technology use, platforms, and others. But incidents do happen. And I think we also have to acknowledge that irrespective of why we're trying to get to 100%, it's not a reasonable expectation. It's what we should strive for, and it's our goal. But things are going to happen. We're dealing with children. We're dealing with human beings. What I do hope is that we've, educated students when these situations have happened of the why and why it's wrong, and educate them to not do it again. So going back to like being proactive and, where I've experienced situations where, honestly, I look back and I'm like, but we told you. and, and it naturally, not naturally, but they do happen. And I can't create these spaces where it's 100% free of, while I strive for it with, my community staff and my children.
So by monitoring social media, we've been able to catch things like when there's a threat on our school or a child saying that they're going to get into a fight, report that to the principal ahead of time and make sure that we're proactive in that type of situation. Um, we could do a better job of that. We don't monitor social media. We just have, kind of our ears on the ground as principals and teachers. And sometimes our parents will inform us of what's going on. And so if we can get ahead of it to make sure that the kids are safe and staff is safe, that's our objective.
Well, we've got some stories that we've been able to get on top of because we use a site called Securely, and those sites allow us to know about things that algorithms that have been warning us about what our students have been engaging in. And when we call the parents, when we ask questions of students who have been looking at things on the internet, the parents are so happy that we've made them aware that their students have been looking up some sites, and they didn't know that their students were going through such depression, such terrible things that they've been thinking about. And the way to get in front of that again is those relationships and having the conversation. The conversations matter.
What would be your advice to other educators, other administrators to work together to create a culture of digital safety and responsibility in their schools?
What I would say more than anything else is, I think, we're all facing similar challenges, meaning school districts across New York State and the state that I have the opportunity to work in and throughout this country. And I think one of the things that we as educators can do is share some of those best practices to help each other. I think sometimes, and I say this respectfully of my colleagues and everyone else, is that we concentrate so much and understandably on the sort of this geometric space that we have the responsibility to serve. But we have an opportunity to share those best practices and ways that are being successful with our families. So I think one of the things that I would share with us and encourage us to continue to do is where it's working and key strategies that are being helpful or that are working within a said community should be shared and shared well across our educational systems across this country. Again, I think sometimes we get in this isolatory type or that we work in isolation of others. We have to come together around this. These are issues that are common amongst all of us. So finding that space is really, really important, whether that's in attendance of conferences, whether those are regional forums that we can bring folks together, whether that's Zoom calls that we can get on together around a common problem. Creating those structures is what I would encourage us to really begin to think about, because there's beauty and great ideas happening across this state that I'm not even aware of. But yet, but our goals are all in common, right? We all want to serve our kids. We want to create healthy and and safe environments for our students. Well, then let's spread it out and let's really talk about those and then see what the relevance is, for a school district to adopt them.
So I think as educators, we need to take digital citizenship seriously. We can't just add it, do one lesson every semester. We've got to ingrain this in our curriculum to make sure we're discussing it with kids. We show them examples. We give them ideas on how to use social media effectively. If we don't educate them and have that be a discussion with them on an ongoing basis, starting in kindergarten, then we can't expect them to take it seriously. So it needs to be an integral part of our curriculum now.
My advice to other districts who have been thinking about using technology to assist is not to be afraid. Use technology as a partner safely, but use that technology. Don't be afraid. Work with your tech department to find out what works for you. Not everything will work for you. Use strategic abandonment. Abandon the things that you don't want to use, but then use your data to tell you what works for your district, for your community, and then tell everybody what you're using and tell it everywhere, because they will be your partner.
Yeah, that's so true. What are your 1 to 2 biggest social media concerns for the future?
One of the biggest concerns I have with social media, and I see it even at home with my own children, is the lack of real personal connections with folks. And I mean that in terms of like the face to face, the phone calls, the students and children being out and play. I can see where it can become too much for some. That's a great concern to me. We have to find a balance, and we have to find a balance for our we got to educate our students around, how much is too much in terms of technology. We have to educate our families on that as well in terms of what is too much. But I worry about that significantly. And I worry about how quickly this movement is happening. For instance, we see AI here now. And we're struggling with that and what it's going to mean for us as education, but it's here and it's continued to evolve. And within the last month, I've already seen movement in the realm of AI, and that's going to be something our students are going to be facing. And I'm not there just yet in terms of what I need to do. I'm thinking about it, but I'm going to need some help and support from folks in my sphere of influence in my district, in addition to those, in my neighboring districts and across the state. I need some guidance and help and support to help our kids.
One of my concerns is the mental health of our children. There's been some studies that show that too much social media can affect their self-esteem and their mental health. And so I worry about that kids are getting too much social media or getting their self-esteem from social media and bots instead of healthy relationships with people. So that's a big concern for me. The other one is there's been a lot of examples of how kids can get into hate rhetoric by, clicking one video and that takes them to the next video and the next video. I want to protect our children from those kind of things. It seems like it's very easy right now to kind of go down a rabbit hole. And I wish there was some more legislation in place to protect our kids.
Oh, my biggest safety concerns for the future are going back to what we used to go to, just having so much of everything that we really aren't great at anything. Before we just used everything. Teachers were on all kind of platforms, students were on all kind of platforms, and we weren't good at anything. We have to be great at knowing what works for our students' learning, what our teachers are doing to best serve the needs of our students, and what's endangering them. Because if we don't know what we're using in our buildings, what our teachers are using in our classrooms, that's a danger. And so as long as we all know what's happening, just like in our own homes, then we have the way of being protective. But if we have everything coming in and out of our systems, it's a danger.
Now, funding is difficult across the country. What advice would you give to other districts to secure funding to create resources that parents need?
I mean, obviously you have to set priorities within your school budget, and that's your starting point, not your only starting point. And I think it's working with your board, working with your community to understand why you might need to allocate said resources, in this case to technology, to help support our students. In many cases, the lack thereof can lead to inequities within your school system, and we're trying to disrupt and dismantle inequities within our sphere of influence. The budget could provide for that. I think there's other elements where, I don't think you should be remiss from reaching out to various foundations and corporate partners that can help in these areas. I think there's a greater awareness around this in terms of the need for technology with it throughout our country. I think, as far as at the federal level, there's a lot of conversations around connectivity. So I think there's various buckets that where funding can be secured, but I do think you need to start off with outlining what is your plan and why you want to do it. And then you can allocate the resources around it. You can't start just seeking technology without having a set purpose. You need your elevator pitch. You need to kind of explain it. And then in turn, start seeking the funding that you need to really adequately support the plan that you've outlined at this point.
So I don't know that we have a funding problem. We have a lot of money to do things with parents. I think the problem is staffing issues and time issues. Principals have a million things to do, teachers have a million things to do, and making sure that we connect with parents, engage them, get them comfortable coming on campus, and then really talk about the social issues that are important for them to be concerned with their children and things that they want to watch out for. So I don't really think it's a funding issue. I think it's more staffing and time.
The advice that I give to other districts about securing funding is to know what you have in your district, know what the needs are of your population, and then know where you want to go. Because if you are clear about those things, you know what you can apply for. You can know if that grant aligns to your needs and to your demographic. And if you're clear about those things, you can write grants and then achieve the grant because you know that it's aligned. And so when it's a clear alignment, then you'll get it. You will get it. And that's what a successful grant looks like, is one that meets the need and that one that aligns to your demographic.
Thanks for listening to our smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. This was our District Talk segment where we interview school district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday launch into their future by shining online. This episode was brought to you by our smartsocial.com VIP program. It's called the Very Informed Parent Program, which helps you engage your students with teen-led video lessons. Stay one step ahead with our premium parent newsletter and discover hidden features on trending apps on teens' phones and our 54 plus live parent and student-friendly events every single year. You can click on the link below to chat with one of our team members if you want a free pass to our VIP program to support your community with our smartsocial.com resources. And if you're a district leader who has a success story, we would love to feature you on a future episode. You can click the links below to reach out. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Have a great day.